Saagar, it's on your radar.
Well, Ryan, the New York Times is out with an exhaustive look into the former President Barack Obama's role in the 2020 campaign so far, and it is stunning in Obama's own view of Biden himself, but more so, just how little esteem he holds the vice president running to hold the same office that he once held. So the story bolsters a larger trend around Biden, which is that the people who have known him best are not exactly enthusiastic about his candidacy. Recall that the primary himself, Obama refused to even endorse Biden before the primary kicked off and had almost none of his former high-level staffers openly supporting Biden's campaign. It was only after Biden won the South Carolina primary that Obama decided to intervene and clear the Democratic field for him to effectively secure the nomination for Biden on Super Tuesday. After that, he wanted to, quote, accelerate the end game by talking to Bernie Sanders and getting him out of the race as well. Also recall, 2 months ago, we were able to frequently bring you Biden's latest gaffe moments from whichever interview he subjected himself to, or hilarious moments that even his team couldn't manufacture during press conferences, like, say, all of these.
In addition to that, we have to...
You know what? This is not the way to win voters, Mr.
Well,
Vice President.
I tell you what, but it's the way to be able to sleep with my wife.
Excuse me.
You know, you're supposed to cough into your elbow. I don't know, sir. I learned that actually covering your White House.
Actually, that's true, but fortunately, I'm alone in my home, but that's okay. Why doesn't he just act like a president? That's a stupid way to say it.
You know, Donald Trump was asked on...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, probably best I don't.
The fact is that there's a lot going on. I don't know even where to begin this, but... there's during World War II, where Roosevelt came up with a thing that, was totally different than he called it the World War II. He had the War Production Board. Introduce me? Am I on? Hey, good evening, Tampa. You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. And the idea that instead of standing there and teaching a cop when there's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart. There are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the people out there that are just not very good people. Hello, everyone.
Those moments have dipped off, not because we're not interested in them anymore, but because he doesn't engage in pretty much any real interviews or availabilities anymore. Hasn't held a press conference in over 80 days, doesn't seem all that hard-pressed to do anything about it. And it turns out this strategy is on the advice of Obama himself, who reportedly, quote, told Biden, quote, bluntly counseled him to keep his speeches brief, interviews crisp, and slash the length of his tweets. That's not even the first time that Obama admonished the Biden or his campaign, with the Times reporting earlier this year that Obama told Biden aides not to let him, quote, embarrass himself or, quote, damage his legacy. But it gets even better. Behind closed doors, Obama barely thinks that Biden is up to the job, with the Times reporting that when a Democratic donor raised the issue of Biden's age to Obama last year, that Obama said, quote, I wasn't even 50 when I got elected, and that job took every ounce of energy I had. One really must ask the question, why exactly is Obama working at all to foist upon America someone he views as not exactly fit to run the country in the best of times, and who he openly admits shouldn't spend all that much time in front of a camera taking questions when he literally wants to be the leader of the free world? Well, the rest of the piece really gives it all away, in that Obama's mostly a narcissist who absolutely cannot stand the idea that his legacy will be challenged by anybody else. So, gotta be Joe. The piece is riddled with anecdotes about how Obama prides himself on having more Twitter followers than Trump, even though he's supposed to be above such petty concerns, and how that one of the things that irked him the most about the Democratic primary was Elizabeth Warren criticizing his paid speeches before Wall Street firms, and that while he has pondered whether there was anything he could have done to prevent Donald Trump's presidency, that he has now concluded it was a, quote, historical inevitability. That is really what gives away the whole game. If Obama can get Biden elected and write his version of history, then it was a historical inevitability in order to surge troops in Afghanistan and bomb Libya and pursue TPP and create DACA out of thin air and refuse to punish Wall Street bankers for paying themselves bonuses and allowing homeowners to go belly up in 2009. All just an inevitability. If Obama allowed history to take a different course, and if the media ever started asking tough questions about any of those discrete political choices, then people might figure out that they're owed much, much more than they are getting from their government. And that his presidency was largely an aesthetic con job. And Ryan, as you pointed out to me actually earlier, is that another great part of the piece is when Obama even goes after his own wife, basically criticizing her, or not criticizing her, but saying, well, her book was an international bestseller, but she had a ghostwriter, and I'm writing every single word myself. I remember it was in 2008 when he said, I'm my greatest speechwriter, I'm my greatest staffer, I'm my greatest. It's just like, good man. I mean, it's just narcissism just drips off of the page to even go after your own wife in the pages of the New York Times. And I think that so much of that is what's animating Biden, where as we saw, like, he clearly doesn't have a very high estimation of the man. He's basically been telling him, don't do interviews because of all the moments that we played there. Those have all just dropped off in the last month, and the Biden campaign has just internalized the Obama advice of not showing yourself, and it's working now, but he wants to be the leader of the free world. Like, we both have covered the administrations. You can't do that when you're the president. You literally just can't do it. And I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah. Calling Michelle out for having a ghostwriter, that's Michael Jordan levels of, of pettiness.
That is Jordan levels of pettiness.
But to answer the question, or my answer to the question that you had in your radar is, why would he be doing this? Well, because Trump. Mm-hmm. Why would he support somebody that he doesn't think is up to the job? He thinks he's up to the job more than Trump is not up to the job. Now, why did he then help consolidate the party around Biden?
Question. Yeah.
Because the other alternative was Sanders, and that's a rejection of Obama-era liberalism, progressivism. That's saying that he didn't go far enough, that there were flaws in his presidency. Biden, coming back into the White House, says Obama was good.
Yes.
And he was too good for the American people. And so they had this racist reaction, and they inevitably brought Trump in. And I'm sure he's happy to throw a little shade at the Clinton campaign along the way. And then the American people rejected that and went back to the good thing, which was the Obama years in the form of Biden. Yeah. Biden, unfortunately, we will find out, was not as talented as Obama, and so he's further elevated relative to the Biden administration. All that gets tossed out if Sanders or even Warren becomes president, because Warren, as he said, he was quite bothered that she's coming after him for the speeches.
How incredible is that? He can't even handle that she was like, I don't think the former president should be getting paid massive sums of money to speak to Wall Street firms.
And he didn't do it anymore. He did it once or twice, got clowned for it, and then stopped because he was like, oh, this actually is really bad. Like, this is not the image I want for myself. And Netflix is giving us $60 million, and also Becoming is still selling tens of thousands of copies a day, it seems like. So he doesn't need to worry about money. So then why tarnish his reputation further by giving speeches to Wall Street banks? Just kind of like Hillary Clinton's answer, because they offered it to him.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not enough.
This is the other thing, Ryan. I mean, Obama famously, he didn't like you over at the Huffington Post. He called you guys. What was it? He called you out in the early days of the administration.
He called us out a bunch of different times.
Yeah. What did you say? He's like, if I had done something.
He said in the Oval Office he has Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, and his longest riff on us was. Can you imagine how the Huffington Post would have covered Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation? He's like, because in the proclamation it says, that slaves in border states that have not rebelled are not freed. But this West Virginia county, they're not freed. They're only freed in the areas that are in rebellion. We don't control a lot of those areas, so a lot of them aren't. It's like, can you imagine how the Huffington Post would have ripped us for that? Lincoln sells out slaves. But actually, if you go back to the press at the time,
abolitionists at the time did call Lincoln out for it. So
yeah, they did say.
That's kind of the amazing thing, which is with Obama, is that he refuses to acknowledge his own discrete role, or he puts blame on the other side. And look, I mean, I'm not, I don't like the GOP under Obama was mostly useless. They just pioneered the idea of obstructionism for the sake of it. And there is a lot of blame to be had for that. However, there were discrete political choices that he made. Larry Summers in his White House and appointing different people, pursuing TPP. Many of the other things that nobody forced him to do that. Like, he accepted it, cultivated it. He bombed Libya, Afghanistan. I mean, so many of these other things. It's just so peak of him to say, no, you know what? It was all historical inevitability. It wasn't a historical inevitability. Right. Or even deciding to back Hillary Clinton as vociferously as he did. Who asked him to do that? Nobody. Right. He made that decision. It wasn't an inevitability.
And he even did it in opposition to the progressive wing of the party. Like Larry Summers is a good example. Bringing him in, ridiculous in the first place. Then he wanted to make him chairman of the Federal Reserve. Yeah. And the Huffington Post kind of went on a crusade against that. That was another time he called us out publicly, said that we were making him a whipping boy, and that don't listen to the Huffington Post. Just listen to me, trust me, he's good. But and thanks partly to Elizabeth Warren, she organized, and Jeff Merkley organized 5 Democrats on the banking committee, and so he didn't have. Before he was even nominated, he had lost the votes on the banking committee, so he had to withdraw. And he has always been burned by that. He was also extremely bothered by the insistence among progressives that there be a public option healthcare. It really piqued him. He was angry. He would say, "This is just a sliver of reform." That was one of his quotes. Why is everybody so hung up on this public option?
He promised it during his campaign. Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, this is, again, it just goes back to so much of the way I'm reading this. And he holds Biden in such low estimation, doesn't have any real faith in his ability to campaign. Anybody can understand why Biden is winning right now, given, what the Trump administration is doing and, just seeming lack of direction from the campaign. But just in every step, it's like we have to understand what is coming next. And what is coming next, or it seems like it's coming next, for Obama, is it an all-win scenario? Like you said, he'll just be this hagiographic, saint-like figure coming in and out of the White House, being far more popular than Biden himself. Biden is going to be a disaster. I mean, he just won't have any hold on the party. I mean, as Crystal's covered here, she thinks she's going to start a Democratic civil war. She thinks that, the progressive wing, the only thing even uniting AOC and Joe Biden right now is Donald Trump. What are they going to do when Trump is gone? I don't see any of that handling. So Biden, arguably has an even worse than a Tea Party situation on his hands in terms of trying to govern. And it's just going to be a mess. And I think that this, again, is Obama is foisting this upon us, yes, because of Trump, but I think so much because of his own legacy. Yeah. I really think it's just so much to protect. If we start to ask questions, think about how burned he was when you were asking little questions about that. What about TPP? I mean, Trump and so much of it was a rejection of him personally in his worldview, and he can't handle that. So he has to back Biden 100%.
Yeah. The irony is that his advice at this precise moment is probably good.
Oh, yeah, he's right. I'm not saying
stop talking.
Yeah, but it's
stop with the tweets. Don't even.
Yeah, it just demonstrates again how his staff, David Axelrod, the Pod Save America guys, everybody who worked closely with Joe Biden in a job as analogous to the one he's going to have, did not like Joe Biden and does not think he's up to the task, and yet they're working as hard as they can to get him elected. So there we go. All right, I'm looking forward to what's on Ryan's mind, which is on the Kentucky Senate race. That's next.